Nightline is brought to you by ASSN New Zealand. The future together. ASSN.
Tonight, do AIDS and real estate mix? An Auckland house sale sparks a bizarre court case. Delicate steps in the Holy Land, the Pope's pilgrimage heads for a controversial climax. Needing more than a drop in the bucket, a plea for cash from two cultural icons. Beaming out everywhere, we meet the woman in touch with rocks and Nostradamus. And the bikini that really can make you look like $1 million.
This is Nightline with Carolyn Ryan.
Kia ora, good evening. Does an AIDS death make a difference to house prices? That's the bizarre scenario for a court case that's just opened in Auckland. An elderly couple and their agent are being sued by a businessman who bought from them. He says they didn't tell him a former tenant had died of AIDS, and that affected the price.
This Milford house was sold for $380,000, but the buyer is angry he wasn't told a gay tenant had died of AIDS in the home 2 years earlier. The lawyer for the elderly couple that sold the house say they can't believe they are being sued.
Basically, the facts aren't disputed. It's accepted that someone did die in the property of AIDS, but we're saying, so what? That's irrelevant. We shouldn't have to spend time or money in court arguing about that matter.
The man suing is Auckland businessman Dennis Headley. He's claiming $50,000 in loss in value of the property and $25,000 in cleaning costs. The previous owner wants the case thrown out, but the High Court has ruled the case should be heard. The court says Mr. Headley would call evidence from real estate agents that the matters would influence the price of properties on the North Shore. The legal action is taking place under the Fair Trading Act, and the Consumers Institute is watching closely.
It would set a precedent, and it would be a very interesting precedent, because you've got to weigh up private information about people against the right of people to know.
But the Real Estate Institute is worried a dangerous precedent could be set.
Based on that, now when we list a house, we may have to list all the medical history of that particular home for the last 30 years, which, if it's had 10 owners, would be an impossible task.
The elderly couple who are being sued will have a hearing on April the 13th in an attempt to take the dispute to the Court of Appeal. Stephen Parker, 3 News.
To the Middle East and the historic trip of Pope John Paul. It's tonight reached its delicate and potentially most controversial stage. The Pope is in Jerusalem, where a few hours ago he travelled through the narrow streets of the west of the city to the room said to be the place where the Last Supper was held. There, the 79-year-old knelt and prayed, perhaps for strength, for what lay ahead. A trip into the church's past. Right now, the Pope is at the Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial. These pictures you see, we're hoping to have them. There they are. They're coming in live now from Jerusalem. It's a momentous visit. Millions of Jews and millions of Catholics are waiting to hear what the Pope has to say. There's been speculation Pope John Paul may offer a major apology to the whole of the Jewish world for the Church's inaction during the Holocaust. And some are hoping for criticisms of Pope Pius XII, the wartime pontiff, many accused of not standing up to Nazis. Watch with interest. Of course, the other big tour of world interest is that of Bill Clinton. He's visiting India and Pakistan, trying to ease tensions between the world's newest nuclear powers. Today, he's been playing the tourist, but in the disputed Kashmir province, an example of the volatility. There, a siege in a police station came to a spectacular and deadly end. Soldiers had been surrounding it for 19 hours after 2 militants stormed in, killing 3 people. Today, the siege ended in a volley of gunfire and flames. Indian forces deciding to blow up their own building and those inside. The siege was apparently aimed at catching the attention of Clinton. Back here now, and the controversial wake from fast ferries has washed over another top politician. Transport Minister Mark Gosche today ventured into the Marlborough Sounds. He says a report is needed into safety risks.
Transport Minister Mark Gosche almost got his feet wet, just missing the waves caused by the wake of the Top Cat ferry. A cabinet colleague had warned him the waves would be big.
I talked with Marion Hobbs about her experience, and she said it was quite frightening, and obviously the photographs that we've been able to see, and just that one example of a ferry going by, are a graphic illustration that there's a problem that needs to be addressed.
After a show-and-tell boat trip around Tory Channel with representatives from the fast ferry companies, the Maritime Safety Authority and residents concerned about safety, the Minister heard more local views. Residents say up to 150 people have been put at risk by the fast ferries in the last 18 months.
And this doesn't refer to the adults who, for instance, when they're pulling in their boats, get their hands nearly ripped off because the rope goes through them because of the swell. I'm talking about their concerns with young people or very vulnerable people out in kayaks.
While residents provide anecdotes about the dangers of the wake from the fast ferry, the Maritime Safety Authority and the government want a report that quantifies the risk. The Marlborough District Council did commission a risk assessment report earlier this year, but according to the MSA and the government, it's not good enough. The MSA admits there is a problem along the foreshore.
It is not what we'd call a major navigational safety issue in terms of large vessels potentially colliding with each other in the middle of the water.
While local pressure groups wanted a bylaw passed by Easter restricting the speed of the fast ferries, it now seems the way forward is a comprehensive safety report that can stand up to scrutiny in court if the ferry companies oppose it. Jill Newland, 3 News.
Telecoms tonight revealed itself as the buyer of a big block of shares in media giant INL. It snapped up more than $22 million in the past 2 days, giving it a 5.7% stake. INL publishes many of the country's newspapers, including the Dominion and the Sunday Star Times. While Telecom might have plenty of spare cash, it seems there isn't any left at 2 other national icons of the cultural kind. Te Papa and our symphony orchestra say they can't balance their books and are desperate for official help.
A drop in the bucket for Te Papa, not enough to get it out of its current financial woes. The museum, which cost the country $350 million, has posted an operating loss of $4 million and written off another $13 million in depreciation. Te Papa Chair Sir Trotter told a select committee today that unless the government helps fund the depreciation, Te Papa will slowly die.
Our exhibitions won't change and we'll get less people through the place, and so we lose some of our commercial revenues, and it's a sort of slow death situation.
While he's ruling out charging people to visit the museum, Sir Ron says they need help.
We've lived to the year 2000 and done a damn good job, but we're running out of puff.
The New Zealand Symphony Orchestra was rehearsing in Wellington today, unsure of its financial future as well. Its boss, Ian Fraser, told today's select committee that the orchestra is forecast to post a $1.5 million loss this year, and he's asked the government for emergency funding when it runs out of money in May. The minister responsible, Helen, met with the Treasurer today as part of the budget round and says it was a positive meeting.
Obviously, it's a budget matter. How we deal with the financial pressures on those organisations.
Clark considers both Te Papa and the NZSO to be cultural treasures, and with her in charge of the portfolio, it seems likely the Treasurer will find the money to save them. Sarah Hall, 3 News.
In a moment, when Nightline continues, the billion-dollar fallout from a sexual discrimination case, and a spurned lover goes on a shooting rampage in a Texas church.